Well, welcome to the programme this week, on a week where we have to report the death of French Olympic swimming champion Camille Muffat. She was recording a reality television show in Argentina where 2 helicopters crashed and killed 10 people. Among them were some of France's most well-known sports celebrities. There was boxer Alexis Vastine, an Olympic medal winner, and yachtswoman Florence Artaud, very well known in France, but in the swimming world the news of the death of Camille Muffat has echoed around the world. Also present were footballer Sylvain Wiltord and Alain Bernard, another of France's Olympic swimming champions. It's terrible news, and the swimming world and the sports world and all of France are in mourning this week. Camille Muffat was born and trained in Nice in the south of France. She was the girl next door who did extraordinary things, winning gold in the 400 freestyle at the London Olympics aged 22. She died in the helicopter crash in Argentina that claimed 10 lives while filming for a reality TV show, and the news sent France into shock. French President François Hollande said, "The sudden death of our fellow French nationals is a cause of immense sadness." French footballer Sylvain Wiltord, who was another celebrity on the show, but on land when the crash happened, said on Twitter, "I'm sad for my friends, I'm trembling, I'm horrified, I have no words, I don't want to say anything." French Olympic 100 freestyle champion Alain Bernard is another sports star who was part of the show, but on land when the crash happened. After striking gold in the 400 freestyle, Muffat added silver in the 200 free and bronze in the 4x200 free relay, all in London 2012. Camille Muffat died this week, aged just 25. Well, we don't need events like these to remind us how fragile life is, and when we're driven to anger by the sound of a screaming child, or of whining children, or of frustrating friends or family members, it's important to remember that the only thing worse in this world than the screaming children and the whining children and the frustrating family members is the crushing silence if they weren't here. So while the world has stopped for those people and those people grieving those we've lost, the world continues to turn. There are training sessions to attend and meets to prepare for, like the international meet in Edinburgh this weekend. There'll be more. There'll be a World Championships this year and an Olympics next year, and so the cycle continues. For double world champion and Olympic silver medalist Keri-anne Payne, we were lucky enough to talk to Keri-anne earlier this week about her preparations for Rio and come up to date with her training this year. Here it is. Well, we're delighted to have Keri-anne Payne with us this week, and the Olympics isn't close, but it's not too far away either. Bring us up to date with your preparation for Rio.
It's quite scary really to think that next year is the Rio Olympics. I have no idea where the time has gone. It feels like just yesterday that it was the London Olympics, but I'm really looking forward to the next sort of 18 months of my swimming career. I've got loads of competitions between now and the Rio Olympics. I first have to get there, which involves going to the World Championships. And to get to the World Championships, I have another competition coming up in Cancun at the beginning of May, which is the second in a 2-stage qualifier. So essentially, I have to be top Brit in Cancun for the 10K, which means then I go to the World Championships. And then if I'm top 10 in the world at the World Championships, I make the Olympic team. So it's quite an exciting year. I'll potentially know this summer whether I've made the Rio Olympics, whether I've made my 3rd Olympic Games. So it's quite exciting. There's so much to do though between now and then, so much training that I need to get done. Last season I took a season out of the water, so I was doing hardly any training. I went around the world and did a lot of traveling and did a few races. I came out and did the Best Fest, which was so much fun. So having to get back in after having a year off makes such a big difference to the training that I'm needing to do now. But yeah, it's really good. I'm really excited about where I am at the moment and the gains that I'm hopefully still going to make over the next 18 months.
Well, it was great to see you at the Best Fest last year, and you'll be back again for the festival at the end of May this year. How has the sport changed in the last 10 years?
Oh, open water swimming is a completely different sport. I mean, I remember being in a taxi on the way to the Beijing Olympics, and the taxi driver was asking me what we were going out and doing. And when I told him we were doing the 10K, we had to explain it. It's this open water race. We swim 10,000 meters. It's outdoors. We're swimming in the rowing lake, and he just had no idea. And there's so many people in the lead up to that Olympics that had no idea about it. And now, when you mention the word open water swimming, somebody knows someone or has done a swim or is thinking about doing a swim out in the open doing an open water race, whether it's a mile event or whether it's a 10K. So it's really amazing to see how far the sport has grown over the last couple of years, and certainly over social media, Facebook, Twitter and stuff. I'm constantly getting asked for advice on how to feed for a 10K and how to do this and how to do that. So it's great to see so many people in Britain and around the world getting excited about open water swimming.
And if you can, a quick few thoughts on the tactics for a 10K race.
Well, I think every race is different, and what I've been trying to do is trying to learn from every race that I've gone to. So I've not really been putting too much thought into the tactical side of things, just trying to learn at the moment. So I'm sure that'll come over the next couple of years, the next sort of 18 months, where we decide to go tactically for the race. I mean, there's so many different things, and so many things change as well. You can never go into a race with one specific plan, because something will change. Someone will try and swim really quick from a certain point and you won't really know. So you have to be very reactive. You have to constantly have your mind in the game and know exactly what you're doing, where you are, who's where, because anything can change at any moment. So going in with a very specific tactic generally doesn't work that well sometimes.
Well, presumably you have to know the strengths and weaknesses of everyone in the race. And how do you train for a 10K? Is everyone coming from a pool background now?
There's definitely something else in there. We've seen quite a few pool swimmers trying to make the transition into open water swimming, and I am certainly one of them. I was a pool swimmer, and it's the distance background that we have in the pool that's a great attribute towards the open water swimming, and the speed that we get from doing 200s and 400s in the pool and having a good 800 time is certainly going to help you to swim really well. But the thing you can't think about, the thing you can't really train for other than experience, is actually seeing what it's like when you're out there, having someone swim over the top of you, having someone kick you as you go around a buoy, and being able to swim 10,000 meters without stopping. Because even though we do a lot of training and we do weeks and weeks of 70,000, 80,000, 90,000 meters in a pool, you get to stop at every 25 or at every 50, depending on how big your pool is. In the open water, you're doing 10K. You don't get to stop. You don't get to turn. You don't get to have a little rest. You don't get to hold on to anything or put your feet at the bottom. Any of that kind of stuff means you get disqualified. So you're adding that kind of pressure onto your body. You're having to think for the whole way. So it's 2 hours of constant thinking about things. There's so much to think about. So I think a couple of pool swimmers that have tried this. One, for example, was Grant Hackett. He didn't quite manage to make that transition from being an outstanding distance swimmer into being, a great sort of open water swimmer.
Well, tell us a bit about your training and your life in Edinburgh. It seems like a good fun group up there.
Yeah, it is. I've got a great group of training partners at the moment. We have Craig McNally, who's a 200 backstroker and a real character. So something is always happening during the day. We've had for quite a few months now a bit of sabotage with our net bags going on, because they all go into the same room every night, and I dread to think when I go on Monday morning what he's done to my net bag. I think once he'd emptied all my kit out and he'd put a Swiss ball, he deflated the Swiss ball, put it in my net bag and then inflated it, so I couldn't actually get it out other than having to deflate it myself and then get it out. Really childish, but very funny. It keeps things fun at the pool. I mean, we're there so much. We see these people all the time, so having a few jokers like that is always good. And then to top that off, we've got such world-class coaches. We have Chris Gilchrist, who is a former Olympian, someone I swam with at the Beijing Olympics, and Laurel Bailey, who's our coach and sort of Chris's mentor. So it's amazing the partnership between the two of them. They've got such a good relationship, and there's they both take on a huge amount of what we're doing. So it's not just Laurel doing all of my program. Chris is helping me with my strength and conditioning program. So yeah, we're really lucky. And on top of all of that, we get to train at the Royal Commonwealth Pool every single day. So the facilities are fantastic, world-class coaching. I really couldn't be in a better position right now.
And how much input do you have on your training on a daily or a weekly basis?
I have an input into certainly everything, every session. If there's something I want to change about it, we can change it. But I put a lot of faith into Laurel and Chris. It's been something we've worked on over the last sort of year and a half of the program that we're going to do, and we're still learning things. We're still new at all of this kind of stuff because I've only been with Laurel and Chris for the last 2 years. So there's still, some kind of teething problems every now and then. But to be honest, we've put on such a great program now, and I have input into not necessarily single sessions, but kind of phases and specific things that we want to work on. And every now and then I'll say, can we do a bit less today? And every now and then I'll say, can we do really long, boring stuff in the morning? Because I know that's what my body needs to recover really well.
Well, you mentioned the Royal Commonwealth Pool there. It's a fabulous facility and many of us have swum over the years. Tell us your thoughts about the British swimmers competing there this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm not too sure of the international swimmers, all of the international swimmers anyway, that are coming across to do the event, but I know that all of the British swimmers are going to be here, which is always quite interesting to watch them swim at this time of the season to see where everybody's at, because a lot of people will be training and trying to get ready for the trials that are happening pretty soon. So I don't think there'll be too much read into these meets, but it's always good when you swim fast, when you hear someone swim fast. I know that Adam Peaty swam a really quick time. I think it was only a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully he'll be on good form and give everybody that's watching a good show. But I think as a team as a whole, we've all taken a lot from the London Olympics, and we've all learned a huge amount from that, and the pressures of all of that kind of stuff, and the training regime, and where we are as kind of a nation. So it's going to be interesting the next sort of 6 or 7 months really to see how everybody manages to do at the trials, and then how we manage to back that up again at the World Championships coming up in the summer in Russia. But for this weekend, I think it's going to be a great show for people coming to watch in Edinburgh, and a really good opportunity for the team to get together again to see how everybody's doing, and for the guys in charge, so for Bill and for Chris, to see how everybody is doing things at the moment. Are they making gains? Are turns better or starts better? That kind of stuff is the things that you work on at these kinds of meets. The small things that you don't really think too much about, but are really important that you get practicing at any chance you can.
Well, expectations are going to be very high for the British team this year and next. But it seems like a group of young people who want to perform, who want to meet those expectations.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. I think what a lot of people, we got a lot of stick as a British team at the London Olympics. Yes, we didn't win as many medals as we wanted to, but we made more finals and more semi-finals than we ever had. And the reason for that was because we had such a young team, and we had all those youngsters making those finals and making those semi-finals, and they're older now. They've got 2 years experience, so they've been to home Olympics. They've now had 2 more years of experience. So everything they've got, Siobhan Marie O'Connor, coming away from the Olympics and going to the World Champs, going to the Commonwealth Games, she's just taking one strength to the next. So what we're seeing now with that young team that we had then, they're all starting to mature and they're all starting to get better. So fingers crossed they can all ride that wave through into Rio and to prove a point that we all know we can.
And now a few thoughts perhaps for the younger swimmers, or for the older ones. I mean, you've had your ups and downs. I mean, what's Keri-anne Payne's advice on when it doesn't go quite so well?
I think as a kid I was really lucky with my parents. They were there to support me at races when I needed it, and it was unconditional support. It didn't matter if I swam well, it didn't matter if I swam badly. There was never any, if you do a PB today you're going to get an iPad at the end of the week. There's none of that stuff when I was a kid. It was just a good luck, see how you get on, and we'll see how things go. So I think for me, it was great that I did have that support, and even if it was bad, I knew that I wasn't going to have this disappointed look on my mum's face when I went to see her. Obviously, if I had been running around with my friends and not really concentrating on the race, she'd at the end of the race go, well, you didn't swim very well there because you were too busy running around with your friends. So it was that kind of support that I was getting from my parents, which I think is really important. I think when parents are on poolsides with stopwatches or sitting in the stands with stopwatches and things, I think that kind of takes the joy out of swimming for the child and for people. We do this because it's something we enjoy doing. And having that unconditional support from family makes such a big difference, certainly because it's a young sport. We start young, but it has a long career, essentially. I mean, when I get to, fingers crossed, the Rio Olympics, I'll be swimming, training and competing for 20 years. It's 20 years of my life that I've been doing this. So having that good base as a child made it easier for me to carry on doing that, right up until close to my 30s anyway. So that is something that I'd certainly say. And if you have had a bad swim, you can always learn something from every single race that you do. You had a good start because of this reason, you had a bad start because of that reason, you had a good turn because of this reason, and a bad turn because of that reason. I'm not saying you're going to excuse a bad race just because you had a bad start and a bad turn, but at least you have an idea of why it went a little bit bad, or where you are in your training cycle. That as well makes a big difference. If you're in heavy training, the expectation to swim well, shouldn't really be that high. So there's so many different things. So I would say learn what you can from every single race. Once you've learned from it, move on to the next one, because it doesn't matter what happened in the last race. It only matters what happens in the next races, or at the major competitions, or at the bigger trials. So don't hang up too much on one race here, one race there. Just take what you can from it, whether it's good or bad. You've learned something from both outcomes, and then take that on into the next swim. All the things that you've learned, things you can try and improve on, and then keep on going through that way.
Well, thank you very much, Keri-anne. It's a delight to talk with you, and best of luck this year and beyond. Well, thank you for your company this week, a week where we're mourning the death of France's Olympic champion, Camille Muffat. We'll see you next time.